Level with you guys. I do not have time to film the entire 3 hours of the Oscars. I am tired and I have things to do. So I'm gonna film for the next 40 minutes and call it good. But just being honest, I like your guys' work though. Really appreciate it. So I'm going to tell you, these are 10 secrets and stories that nobody else knows. And I'm going to share them with you today. And I hope you enjoy. I've titled it Things I've Never Told My Father. So let's get started. Excuse me. This one is titled, we don't need numbers. What the heck are we doing? Transition music. Okay. Hair. I'm looking at the computer screen right now, and it's reversed. So I really hope it flips at the end of editing, but just in case. Good thing I have an A, I, and A somewhere. Well, I cannot spell. There. See, for me, that looks good, but hopefully it's reversed the other way. All right. Hair. Let's get started. No more wasting time. When I was 7 years old, my mother grew out her hair and donated it. I thought that was really cool. I was in first grade, and I realized, like, oh my gosh, you can grow your hair and give it to people, and you can do good by just doing like nothing almost. Like you can just take care of hair and give it to people that can't grow hair. And I thought that was awesome. And so in first grade, I started growing my hair. Now, this was a time when growing your hair in the Midwest in the early 2000s wasn't cool then. You know, it was after 80s and 90s, so it was not cool. And I found that out real quick. I got bullied. I was not allowed in bathrooms sometimes, and you got called long hair freak, blah 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 blah. It always kind of annoyed me too when I went to college, and then all these guys started growing their hair out long, just to try it, and then people would be like, "Oh, Owen, you're doing the man bun thing." It's like, yo, dude, I was doing this 15 years ago when it wasn't cool, man. What the heck? Anyway, it made me think about the story was always oh, because my mother did it, I did it. And I'm one of 5 kids. I have an older brother, older sister, one younger sister. And we all of us have grown our hair out. Both my sisters and my younger brother, we've all donated our hair. And we still do. I think my brother just recently donated it. And it's just, I've been doing it ever since. So it's cool. It's been cool. Donated about 4 times now, and hopefully I can donate it again, and it's a cool thing. Now, I thought about a time where I always thought it was because my mother did it, that inspired me. And maybe that's true. But there's this story of right before that happened, my father was like, oh, you need to get a haircut. So this is before first grade. It might have been at the beginning of first grade. You need to get a haircut. And I was like, I don't know, I don't really want a haircut. And he decided to give me a haircut. Not excited about that. And so what he ended up doing, we were in the bathroom. It felt like hours, as a kid. I didn't have a shirt on or anything. It felt like I was in a towel. It might have been after shower or something. I don't know. I have no idea. And he cut it, and it wasn't good, and he kept cutting it shorter, and then by the end, he buzzed my head. And at the end, I was bawling my eyes out and crying, and I remember doing this position and just crying as I left the bathroom, and it scarred me, and it sucked, and it's a bummer because it really made my dad feel bad too. Like, he didn't mean to hurt me, and it sucks because throughout life, he would kind of like bring it up, be like, oh, at least I don't have to like shave your head or something. And because I think he felt insecure about that. And that was always interesting to realize, like, oh, like your parents can feel insecure about things and hurt, and they're also human, and so I always, I think he felt really bad about it, and I was scarred from it. And I never, ever want to do a buzz cut again. I mean, maybe someday, but I would probably have to do it or be in control or do someone, that I trust or something. But, yeah, and then after that, I've never had it that short. But, because I always grow extra, so I have a little extra after I cut it. But anyway, I guess the secret and story about that is just like, because I didn't really talk about it or bring it up, like, yeah, Dad, I was scarred and I was hurt, but I also realized, like, it hurt you too, and it hurt that you hurt that I hurt, but it also, I'm sure, hurt you realizing like you hurt your son, and that's just a tough position, and it sucks. That's hard. Speaking of this position, let's go to story 2, transition music. Again, on my end, it's it's like a mirror. So I hope this flips afterwards. I'm shooting this thing on photo booth, man. The belt. I do remember getting spanked as a kid, but not enough. I actually thought our parents should have spanked us more, especially with my siblings. But then they would tease me why I'm so hard on myself, and I'm like, well, I'm hard on myself because you guys didn't discipline us enough, so I have to discipline myself. Anyway. The last time my dad used the belt on me was, and this position, it seems to be like a position of mine, like when I got my hair cut, I was sad. This story I'm about to tell you now, and like when I'm cold out of the shower, it's like, I don't know what that is. Maybe I was like that in the womb, or maybe it's just the most efficient thing to stay warm. I don't know, man. Okay. Or woman, I don't know who's watching. Yeah. So I think I went in the attic or something, and we weren't allowed to go in the attic as kids, and I don't know, and I think it was like Dad was coming home and Mom was gonna set him on me or something. So I remember being in my underwear, and he was in their room, and I had to walk in. It was just him and I, and I thought he was just this huge dude, like 6'2.5", over 200 pounds, just like this big guy. And I was first, second grade, I don't know. And I remember just like being here, and he was sitting there, and he had the belt on one hand, and he just kept saying, he was just like, come here. And I just was bawling my eyes out, like, no, no, no. And he's like, come, and then he'd just be, come here. And I'm like, no. He's like, come here. And he'd just go back and forth. It felt like hours, but as a kid, maybe, could have been 5, 10, 20 minutes. It felt so long, and it felt so late. And then eventually he put the belt down, and then he said, opened his arms, and he said, come here. And I remember, going and we were hugging, and I'm just bawling my eyes out. And it was another moment that, as a kid, it's a traumatic moment or something, and because it just sticks with you. And I always felt a little guilty about. I always felt a little guilty about not taking the whooping. So yeah. Transition music. Okay. Number 3. I have always had a thing for pregnant women. I'm just being honest. I'm not in a weird way. I'm just saying. Hey, nobody knows these. Like, you're the first one to know this, okay? I have a thing for pregnant women. And I mean, like, when I would write stories or something, I almost always had, like, a character in mind who was pregnant. And I think it's just so cool. I think it's so cool. I think women who can give, like, freaking grow a human in the body and, like, push it out. I think that's so cool. It's awesome. It's like that's awesome. And then you feed it and stuff. Like, I'm like, yo, that is a superpower, dog. That's so cool. Yeah, I just think it's cool. And I'm not gonna lie, like, sometimes if I've, like, written stuff, I've definitely, like, put myself in a situation where it's like, where I'm like, oh, the pregnant mom is about to give birth and I'm the only one that could drive her to the hospital. Like, really weird stuff. I probably need to talk to my therapist about it, but I'm just being honest, okay? I'm trying to lighten this up because secrets can be heavy. Okay, all right, we're done. Moving on. Do. Oh man. What do we got here? All right. You know what? I should be drawing pictures. Let's draw some pictures. Let's go crazy. It's a person throwing up. All right. I had a massive fear as a kid, throwing up. It was really bad. I had a terrible phobia. But the thing is I thought about it, and I think one of the first times, one of the first times I realized it was a phobia was we went to this, like, youth group thing. I was like this little elementary school kid, and I remember feeling sick, and I remember I threw up, and the girl next to me goes, ew, and that just, like, dug right into your heart. And then I remember, like, I had to be sent to the bathroom, and then my dad had to clean it up. And I always felt so bad about that. And, I think probably one of my biggest fears is, like, disappointing family, especially my dad, and, it just sucks and I think the thing with, like, throwing up too was that you just, like, not being able to have control of your life, your body, especially in front of people. Like, that was absolutely terrifying. Not only is it gross, it's just, like, you can't like, it, growing up in a big family, like, so much is out of your control in general, but I always felt like there was so much out of my control all the time. And so, yeah, that's what I think it was. But yeah, I always felt bad that my dad had to clean that up. And, maybe there's some stuff, not only is it lack of control, but also maybe I was kind of felt bad that he had to clean that up in front of everyone. It's like, oh, he's the kid. Oh, here's Mike, whose kid just like throws out at youth group parties. Whatever. All right. See, with the drawings, whether it's flipped or not, like you'll understand. Whatever. All right, moving on. Oh gosh. I don't even know what to. When I was, I don't know, 5, 6, 7. I feel like everything happened to me at like 5, 6, 7 years old. I remember looking into the mirror and feeling fat. And I still remember just looking in the mirror and just like looking down and grabbing myself and feeling like I was fat. Like just a little boy. And, I would, like, I'm a young elementary school kid. I would wake up super early, it could be 4, 5, 6 or something, and I would work out. I would do push-ups, I would do sit-ups, and I got in a really good routine. And it was crazy, but the problem was I also starved myself because I thought like having a six-pack or being like lean was like being strong, even though I was like losing all energy and eating away muscle. But I would starve myself. I starved myself, and I think I suffered from like body dysphoria or body dysmorphia. I don't quote me on that. I have to talk to someone about that to diagnose. So, but I'm just being honest. But none of that's like been properly diagnosed. But where I think I even struggle with it today, like just looking in and being like, oh my gosh, you're fat or something, and it's like, so yeah. So I started myself to look a certain way, and I also started myself because I was so nervous to like throw up that I was like, well, if I don't eat a lot, then maybe I won't throw up. But yeah. Speaking of starving yourself and exercising. All right. It's supposed to be a six-pack. Here, we'll draw the arms. All right. Anyway, six-pack. We had a pandemic thing that happened. I just graduated, and I thought I was going to go to New York, and it was going to be awesome. Wrong, because pandemic thing happened, so I went home to be there for family, as my grandfather died from heart failure, and just was like, all right, I guess I got to be home now, and then I got to get a job. And so what happened was I applied. It's kind of a long story, but I'll try to keep it quick. I went to a restaurant to like, I'll just work at the local restaurant and be, like a waiter, busboy or something. And then they were like, oh, you don't have enough experience. And I was like, awesome, thank you so much, master's degree. So, but he was like, but I have this friend named Sugar Daddy Doug, and he needs some young boys to power wash gas stations around Michigan. I would love, that is a story for another time. I should probably put that in some stand-up thing. My Sugar Daddy Doug summer, yes, that was, anyway, the whole thing, okay, anyway, yes, he made us wear short shorts, and it was weird, and yes, on our days off, he would invite us to his house, he would smoke cigars and be like, Owen, take off your sunglasses, I want to look into your eyes, and then I was like, I need to get a new job. So, I got a new job. Actually, through Sugar Daddy Doug, his neighbor saw me. I was changing. I left. I was changing to. And the neighbor was watching me, and I was like, "Hello," and she's like, she's speaking in a Turkish accent. I was like, "Oh, where are you from?" Anyway, so oh gosh. Anyway, I got the job, okay? I got the job. And it was a weird summer. And I was the only American that worked at this Turkish cafe, all right? Sugar Daddy Doug's neighbor was Turkish, and she owned a restaurant, and she needed a new person. And I just was right there at the right time. And she's watched me change. So anyway, I'm the only American that works there, and so they put me up front a lot to help with translations and stuff. And so, now the store next to the cafe was this like fashion store, I think like with weddings or something. And I can't remember his name, like what his name was, but he was like a character right out of The Incredibles, like Edna Mode's like student or something with the slick back hair and the fashion, and it was so anyway. There's a line of people, and I'm doing the cashier stuff, and it's always very busy there, and it's always very hectic. And he comes up because he would come occasionally, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, do you model?" And I was like, I can, like, what do you?" And he's like, "Do you have abs?" Do you like want me to show you or something? And he's like, yes. So there's a line of people behind him, and I'm at the cashier thing, and so I'm like, okay. And so I just like lift up my shirt, and I'm like, I can get you more if you need. And he's like, I need more. And I was like, okay, but if you give me, I could maybe get them for you in like 4 weeks. And he's like, I'll give you 5 days. And I was like, okay, all right. So I did a very stupid thing trying to get this job, because I was trying to get out of the Turkish cafe too, because I was pretty sure they were laundering money and using me. It was a really weird situation. Again, it was a weird summer. Sugar Daddy Doug, working for the Turkish cafe, and then one of my coworkers had married someone in the Malaysian mob, and she had escaped, and now she was working there, and she was letting us know we were all in danger. That was awesome. And yeah, I just needed to get out of that situation. And so, like, how I would get paid is, like, they wouldn't pay me for like a month and a half, and I'm like, yes, I'd like checks, but they would pay me in cash, and I'm like, oh, this is weird. And like, I'd be working washing dishes or something, and then his name was Oppo. Oppo would just slip money into my pocket while I'm working. I'd be like, oh my gosh. And then he would just look at me and be like, shh. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. So I was, yeah, that was weird. That was really weird. Weird and wrong. So yeah, anyway, so I needed a new job. I needed to get out of there because I was tired of pretty sure laundering money. And yeah, it would be weird. Like I would ride my bike there. Or my brother's bike. I would ride home with just so much cash. it was so much money because they wouldn't pay me for like a month and a half, 2 months at a time, and then they pay me, and then it was just all cash, and you're just like, I'm gonna get freaking killed. Anyway, so I did a stupid thing to try to get a new job for this guy. I starved myself for a week, idiot. But I mean, all I ate was like no carbs and then, proteins and stuff. But I did another stupid thing. I didn't drink any water because I dehydrated myself so my skin would be thin, so it'd rest more on the muscles. Idiot. Well, anyway, I still didn't think they were good enough. So what I did was I actually took makeup and like did abs the day I was supposed to show him. And it looked terrible. It looked like I had it looked like I had scars from cutting myself. It looked terrible. I took a picture of it. It looked like that. Anyway, and then I go to him and I show him and he's just like, "Oh, they look good." But I got someone else, and I was like, "Great, awesome." So, yeah, that happened. Next. Things I never told my father. Boom. All right. Keep this one. This is pretty much the definition of who I was in middle school. Okay. This is a middle school lunchroom table. Before we get to that, there was this one time, I think it was with family or something, or maybe close family friends, I don't know. And people were all eating at a table. And I came by, and there was an empty chair, and I was like, "Oh, is anyone sitting there?" And the person said, "You are." And as like a middle schooler, I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cute and fun. I'm gonna use that someday." And so middle school, I would eat usually alone. And one day, I'm eating alone at a table, and then this really cute girl comes up to me, and she's like, "Hey, is anyone sitting in this chair next to me?" And I said, remembering, I was like, "You are." And she's like, "Oh, no, I just need the chair." And she took it to sit at another table with her friends. So, yeah, that happened. So... it's a shorter one, you gotta mix them up. Gotta mix them up. Oh. I don't think I can draw this one. So I'll just write it. Vaginophobia. There's probably like an actual term for it. I think I've looked it up, but I'm just like, I don't know if it's... I don't know if I do, but I very well may. Golly. When I was 6 years old. It's in kindergarten. And there's this girl in my class named Taylor. And Taylor, it was like a week or two where she seemed to just like really want to hang out with me. And like she was really adamant about asking me to her house. And I didn't really know why, but she was just like, she really wanted me to come to her house. And so our parents, and what's really weird is her mother was the 5th grade teacher at that school. And her mother and my mother, I guess, set up the play date for me to, I guess on a Friday or something, to go over to her house. And I remember their house was in the country because it felt like it took a long time to get to their house. And I remember we stopped by to like see farm animals and stuff. Well, at her house, she brought me up to her room, and as we were playing with something, all of a sudden I looked up, and she had taken her pants and underwear off, and was thrusting her genitals in my face, saying, touch it, touch it, touch it. And I kept saying stop, and I was confused and embarrassed and trying to get away. And I remember not looking, and I remember pushing her away. And I didn't know if I had touched it or her leg or anything. But as a kid, you're like, oh, germs, better just like get up and go to the bathroom. And I go to the bathroom and like wash my hands with soap, like just, you know, just in case, because, you know, when you use the bathroom, you know, and in case I touched anything, you know, just. And then I come back, and she had her pants back on, and we just like continued the play date, which is interesting. I also vaguely remember like seeing commercials for like Oreo cereal, and I remember when we went downstairs, like we saw that she had Oreo cereal. I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember her being like, oh, it's not that good, and me being like, so I didn't get to try any. But yeah, I'm so glad that when I eat Oreos, not that I've had any, but I'm so glad that like if I eat Oreos or something, I don't like think about that. But that experience, I guess, being sexually assaulted or something, it's tough. It's really tough because she was also a little kid too. It's a tough situation. It didn't affect me until I got to college. Like, I didn't realize how much it had messed with me. Because it was a lot of stuff about like manhood. It was about like, that was a thing where I remember like people saying like, oh, like how men like always hurt women and stuff. And I just remember being very confused about like, I mean, I've been really hurt by people at like a young age, like but you also felt weird about sharing that, Anyway, I just that I always struggled with physical touch growing up, and my family would also tease me about it a little bit, like, oh, he's not a very good hugger, or he doesn't like, yes, baby, you would like squirm and stuff, but I always wondered if it was because of that experience. And I'm very hesitant to get close with people and stuff. And I always tried to make light of it about like, oh, I could maybe, I'm, saving myself for marriage. But then I'm like, is it because I'm actually disciplined to like not have sex till marriage, or is it because I have a fear of what happened? I actually, because I've never seen one since, I sometimes wonder if like it would trigger anything or like bring back memories in a bad way. And that kind of scares me a little bit. But hopefully I could talk to if I get married, I hope to talk to my spouse about that. And, actually, what's tough too is that that experience, then when I was in high school, I remember kissing a girl or like making out with a girl. And I remember I touched her breast. And we weren't official like boyfriend girlfriend. We just had like a thing for like 2 weeks of like walking each other home and then making out. But I later on I felt guilty because I was like, oh my gosh, like had I done what like the little girl had done to me all those years ago? And it wasn't, but it freaked me out a little bit. And I called the one girl I had touched the breast like years later to be like, hey, I just wanted to apologize. And she was kind of like, you're what? So, and it made it even more awkward. But I always felt super guilty and shameful about touching a girl's breast. And that's the farthest I've gone, and I kind of regret that. I regret that a lot, because I wish the first breasts I touched were my spouse's. I'm just weird, emotional, and angsty. All right, moving on. Freshman year of cross country, there was this game that the upperclassmen would play with us about who could go the longest without like masturbating or something, won some prize. I didn't know what masturbation was. I was a freshman in high school. I was a little confused. I didn't understand. And I think I was disqualified because they were like Owen's DNE, which I guess stood for like does not ejaculate or something. Anyway, talking back about like the phobia of like throwing up and stuff. Because of not having control, I think I started using masturbation as a control thing for me. Something I struggled with kind of to this day too, which really sucks. I love that spiral trap of guilt and shame, you know. Yeah. I wish I didn't struggle with it. But I think it is very much a control thing of like, even though this makes me feel guilty or shame or something, it's like the one thing I have control of today or something, which kind of sucks. And like that control outweighs the negativity or the effect of it, which really is bad. But I will say this one time, sometimes if I had masturbated or something, I would feel so much shame or guilt that I would just kind of like wallow and just like kind of sit in it and like, I'm not gonna wash, I'm just gonna, it was weird. And I remember I was working at a computer. I think I had ejaculated in my shorts or something. And that's the funny thing too, is like I didn't watch porn. I would just like watch like movie scenes, like, or like bikinis or something. Like I didn't go to like porn sites. And that's so funny. It's like, yeah, I'm not addicted to porn or something. It's like, dude, but you're still like lusting, and it's so stupid. And I remember, I was like, well, I'll get work done. And I remember my dad came in and he was like, what's that smell? And I said, oh, that's me. I haven't showered yet. Because, you know, I'd done sports and stuff, and so I had worked out. And he's like, it really smells. And I'm like, yeah, it's me. I just haven't showered yet. And I remember he like looked at me, and I looked at him, and I think he knew. He was just like, you dumb mother. He's like, what the? Let me get the belt, you know. So yeah, that one I've never told anyone. You know, because some people know some of these things, but that one I have not told anyone at all, and not one person knows all of these. So you guys know them all. Yeah. Yeah. I hope I get a handle on it. I've been going to a therapist, so she's been helping me through it. I think it's has to do with a lot with like stress and control, and insecurities and fear of being alone and being rejected, and so that's a secret and a story that is to be continued and worked on. All right, last one. Gotta end it on a good note, right? My little brother, he and I actually like to do these film projects together, and we wanted to do this together, but I think just with timing of work, and he got sick, and I was busy, we couldn't do it, and that sucked. I don't really like my siblings. Like, if we were not siblings, I would not want to hang out with them. I think they're very selfish and frustrating, and being the middle child, just trying to be a peacemaker and trying to make everyone happy and trying to just make things work. It's just so hard. It's really hard. And, my sister, my oldest sister, the oldest of us all, she's kind of gone off. She hasn't made the best life decisions. And my older brother has Down syndrome. And so then I'm like next in line. So there's a lot of pressure there. And it's a little frustrating too, because it feels like you have to be in a sibling role that you're not equipped for. Which is also funny too, because my middle name is Squire. And it was like, but I don't even have dual citizenship, so I can't even be knighted. So now you gave me a name that will never be complete, and I'm trying to keep things together, being the middle child, and I will never be like the oldest. Anyway, I digress. Someone asked me, what was the best day of your life? And I never thought about that before. And I realized, I said, when my little brother was born. I was 6 years old. And maybe I should title this thing My 6-Year-Old Self. Maybe I'll say that for something else. And I said when my little brother was born, because he's the only sibling I remember being born. And I remember walking in, my mother, who had birthed him, pregnant women. All right. And because then that means I realized I was the middle child, and so much of my identity and circumstances and situations have been because of that. And what's been so great is I may not like my siblings, but I do like my little brother a lot. I mean, I love all of them, but actually, my little brother and I like hanging out together a lot. And I realized, when I was in my grad school, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't have friends and stuff or anything. And then I realized, oh my gosh, my best friend is my brother. And that really meant a lot, because I didn't realize that. So the thing that my dad doesn't know is that one of the best gifts my parents ever gave me was my little brother, and I really appreciate that, and it means a lot. But guys, appreciate what you're doing with all this. Let me I'll play you out, and I hope you have a good night, and thank you for listening.